So imagine, if you will, a remarkable adult Doberman. You know the exact dog I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely.
It's standing there. It's sharp, imposing, deeply loyal, and it is quietly evaluating the entire room before it makes a single move.
Right. An incredible, almost regal animal.
Yeah. But here's the catch. Nobody just hands you that finished dog.
No, they definitely don't.
What you are actually handed is a soft, clumsy 2-month-old puppy that is currently tripping over its own oversized paws.
Right. You're getting the raw clay, not the finished masterpiece.
Yeah.
And that raw clay is incredibly impressionable.
Which is exactly what we are unpacking today. Welcome to our deep dive into the source material. We are looking at this fascinating developmental roadmap, centering on one really profound idea, which is that genes create potential, but experience shapes the dog.
Exactly. The genetic blueprint is just a capacity.
Right. So if you are raising a puppy, or maybe you're thinking about getting one, or you're just fascinated by animal behavior, we are mapping out the critical 12-month window that transforms that raw genetic material into a finely tuned companion.
And we'll see how missing these invisible windows leads directly to the breed's biggest behavioral issues.
Yeah, because if the right scaffolding isn't built around that dog, all of that immense potential can actually collapse in on itself, right?
It can. You end up with a fearful, reactive animal.
So let's start at the true beginning. Before you even look at the puppy walking through your front door, you have to look at where it came from.
Yes.
Because there's this huge misconception that a dog's adult temperament is dictated by, like, a fancy pedigree or champion bloodlines.
Right. People think it's all about the paperwork.
But the reality is far more biological. The single biggest predictor of that dog's personality is actually the parent's temperament, especially the mother, and the early environment from the breeder.
Yeah, we have to look at the mechanisms of how a puppy actually learns. I mean, they are absorbing their first lessons directly from their mother. And this starts before they're even born.
Wait, really? Before they're born?
Yeah. If a mother is highly anxious during pregnancy, her elevated cortisol levels, the stress hormone, can actually cross the placental barrier.
Oh, wow.
It chemically alters the developing nervous systems of the puppies. It sets them up for a higher baseline of anxiety from day one.
That is wild. And I guess once they are born, they're just constantly watching her, right?
Exactly. If she startles at every loud noise, they internalize that fear as a survival mechanism.
Right.
But if she is steady, they internalize that the world is safe. That's why a responsible breeder is actively shaping that environment, exposing the litter to varied sounds and gentle handling before their eyes are even open.
Now, what about the specific bloodlines, like the American lines versus European lines? Because that's a big debate.
Oh, massive debate. The general wisdom is that American lines are shaped more for companionship and the show ring. They're more refined.
And European lines emphasize working drive and structure.
Right.
And structure doesn't just mean looking tough, right? We are talking literal bone density, chest depth, and joint angulation for sustained physical exertion.
Correct. But, and this is key, we have to view these as tendencies, not absolute guarantees.
Okay, so it's a spectrum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A bloodline simply sets a range of possibilities. A thoughtfully raised American line dog can have incredible drive. And a European line dog, if raised in a calm environment, can be a beautifully settled family dog.
So it's the breeder's early work combined with your environment that decides where in that range the dog actually lands.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to challenge a really common instinct. You are standing in the middle of a litter, and almost everyone wants to pick the boldest puppy.
Oh, yeah. Every time.
The one that charges right up to you, wrestles its siblings to the ground, unties your shoes. It feels like you're choosing the bravest dog.
But for the vast majority of people, that is entirely the wrong move.
Why is that?
Because that boldest puppy is hardwired to push boundaries. I mean, that dog might be fantastic for a highly experienced handler doing protection sports.
Right.
But for the average home, for a first-time owner, you want the middle-of-the-road puppy.
You want the easy roommate, not the star of the show.
Exactly. You want the puppy that is curious, but not overwhelming. The one that, might startle if you drop your keys, but recovers quickly and goes to investigate.
Rather than running to hide or barking frantically.
Right. That bounce-back ability is the true marker of a balanced companion.
And is it the same when it comes to picking a male or a female? People obsess over that?
They do. But individual temperament matters vastly more than sex. Males do mature a little slower, and their testosterone gives them more physical presence.
And females?
Females mature faster and might be a touch more independent. But making your choice based solely on sex rather than that bounce-back ability is a massive miscalculation.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's follow this timeline forward. You've selected that perfect, resilient, middle-of-the-road puppy. You bring them home. This initiates a super critical 48-hour window, right?
It is a make-or-break couple of days for establishing psychological trust.
But the human instinct is to celebrate. You invite the neighbors, kids are screaming with joy, you're taking
Which
photos.
is the worst move you could possibly make.
Because to a 7-week-old puppy, a welcome party is essentially a horror movie.
Yes, they have just lost their mother, their litter mates, the smells of the whelping box. Literally everything they have ever known is suddenly gone.
So the puppy is completely unmoored, and its brain is basically asking, is this a safe world?
And if you flood its nervous system with chaos and loud noises and strange hands grabbing it, the nervous system registers a resounding no.
It learns the environment is unpredictable.
Right. To answer yes to that safety question, you have to provide absolute boring predictability.
A quiet space, a consistent handler, the same smells repeated. Which brings us to the crate. People feel so much guilt about putting their puppy behind bars.
We really have to strip away the human concept of a cage and look at canine biology. Dogs are den animals. They are drawn to enclosed, defensible spaces for safety.
So when you introduce the crate properly, with chews and meals, it doesn't trigger feeling trapped.
No, it triggers relief. It becomes their sanctuary.
But dealing with separation is tricky with Dobermans, specifically. They were bred to be personal protection dogs. They are the ultimate Velcro dog.
Yeah, they're genetically wired to stay glued to you.
So if a dog is biologically programmed to be attached to you, how do you teach to be alone without traumatizing it?
You have to respect both physical and psychological limits. Physically, a puppy's bladder capacity is roughly 1 hour per month of age.
Right, so a 2-month-old puppy physically cannot hold it longer than 2 hours.
You cannot bypass biology.
So leaving them in a crate for an 8-hour workday is an immediate failure.
Precisely. But the psychological part is even more delicate. If a Velcro breed is never left alone, and then suddenly you leave for 3 hours, that contrast creates massive panic.
So what's the strategy?
You build their tolerance microscopically. You leave them in a pen for 2 minutes while you're in the same room. Then you step into the hallway for 30 seconds.
You're teaching their brain that your absence is temporary.
Exactly. You build it brick by brick so it never feels like abandonment.
Okay, so once the puppy realizes the home is a safe den, they have to learn about the outside world. This brings up socialization.
The most misunderstood word in dog ownership.
Seriously, people hear socialization and think it means going to a crowded dog park and wrestling with 50 dogs.
That is like throwing a toddler into a mosh pit to teach them manners. It's a disaster.
True socialization is about positive, low-stress exposure to novelty, right?
Right. It's teaching the brain how to categorize our weird human world.
You want to introduce different surfaces, gravel, metal grates, sounds like thunderstorms or vacuums, and people like someone in a bulky winter hat or a wheelchair or erratic toddlers.
And there is a strict biological timeline. The primary socialization period runs roughly from 3 to 14 weeks of age.
During this window, their brain is just super receptive to learning what is normal versus what is dangerous.
Yes. After 14 weeks, synaptic pruning begins, and fear periods start to lock in. It's a survival mechanism. If a wild wolf pup hasn't seen something by 14 weeks, it assumes it might kill them.
But wait, here is the massive dilemma. Vets emphatically say keep your puppy completely isolated indoors until fully vaccinated at 16 weeks.
Because of parvovirus.
Exactly. Parvo is highly contagious. It survives in soil for years, and it's often fatal. So the vet says isolate to save their life, but the behavioral window closes at 14 weeks.
The tension there is very real, and the behavioral cost of missing that window is immense.
Especially for a guard breed.
Right. If a Doberman isn't exposed to the normal world during that window, they're evaluating instinct misfires. They label everything unfamiliar as a threat. The guy in the wheelchair isn't just new, he's a monster.
So you end up with a fear-reactive dog. How do we bridge this gap?
Controlled exposure. You don't isolate them, but you absolutely keep them off high-traffic ground.
So you carry the puppy through a busy outdoor mall.
Yes, so they can see and hear crowds without their paws touching contaminated dirt. Put them in a shopping cart with a blanket. Meet friends with fully vaccinated adult dogs.
Feed their brain without exposing their immune system.
Exactly. And as they interact with this world, they primarily use their mouth.
The puppy biting phase. People panic. They think their 8-week-old puppy is aggressive.
But human toddlers use their hands to explore. Puppies use their teeth. It's 99% exploration.
The goal isn't to ban the teeth from touching skin, right? Which sounds counterintuitive.
The actual goal is teaching bite inhibition, giving them control over their jaw pressure.
Why wouldn't we just ban biting entirely from day one?
Because you are preparing for the worst-case scenario. If a dog never learns bite pressure, and years later it gets terrified or stepped on by a child, instinct takes over. It will bite with full, bone-crushing force.
But if they learn bite inhibition early,
A dog pushed to its breaking point will instinctively pull its punch.
and they start learning this from their litter mates, a puppy bites too hard, the sibling yelps and stops playing.
Exactly. When they come home, you mimic that. If they bite too hard, you say, ow, and completely pause play.
You teach them a soft mouth keeps the game going, a hard mouth stops it cold.
And this ties into a pervasive, deeply flawed training philosophy. For decades, people thought powerful breeds needed a firm alpha hand.
Physical dominance, alpha roles.
Right. Show them who the boss is.
Which is entirely based on debunked science. That alpha wolf theory was based on stressed captive wolves, not natural packs.
Applying it to a modern dog is like managing software engineers by acting like a 1950s drill sergeant. It breeds resentment.
And for a breed designed to read intentions, intimidation just produces distrust.
It triggers defensive reactivity. You're telling a dog bred to protect itself that you are a physical threat. Positive reinforcement is non-negotiable.
Rewarding what you want, redirecting what you don't. And training starts day one, right? Just everyday boundaries.
Sitting for a food bowl. Settling on a mat.
But if owners aren't using tough physical dominance, they often swing to the other extreme, trying to physically exhaust the puppy.
A tired puppy is a good puppy.
It's a massive trap. It ignores the physiology. Large breeds have growth plates, soft cartilage that don't fully close until 12 to 18 months.
So if you take a 4-month-old puppy on a 3-mile jog or repetitively jump them for a frisbee, you are placing unnatural strain on forming joints.
You're setting them up for early onset arthritis. The vet rule is just 5 minutes of structured walking per month of age, twice a day.
So a 4-month-old gets a 20-minute structured walk, max, plus self-regulated free play on soft ground.
But then you have an energetic working breed with energy to burn.
Which is where cognitive fatigue comes in.
I love this analogy from the sources. Giving a brilliant breed only physical exercise is like taking a highly educated employee and forcing them to dig ditches all day.
Yes. You're just creating a very fit, deeply frustrated athlete.
Yeah.
They need puzzle feeders, scent work, cognitive challenges.
It's the difference between running on a treadmill and solving a complex crossword puzzle in a foreign language. The puzzle exhausts you faster.
If you fail to tire out the brain and provide structure, you run into the 3 Fs. Fear, overprotection, and frustration.
Let's break those down. Fear is from poor socialization missing that 14-week window. Overprotection.
That's an uncalibrated guarding instinct. People assume a guard dog naturally knows who the bad guys are. If you don't socialize them, that instinct mutates into a generalized suspicion of everything. A plastic bag, the mailman.
And frustration comes from inconsistent boundaries, scolding them for jumping on the couch Tuesday but laughing on Wednesday. The antidote to all three is consistency.
Always consistent.
Now, we've talked about protecting the mind and the joints. This leads to the physiological guardrails set by the vet.
The vaccination series, from 6 to 16 weeks, is actually driven by maternal immunity.
When a puppy nurses, it ingests colostrum packed with the mother's antibodies. But there's a catch.
Those antibodies act like overprotective bodyguards. If you inject a vaccine too early, the mother's antibodies neutralize the vaccine before the puppy's immune system can learn to fight it.
And that maternal immunity fades at an unpredictable rate for every puppy.
Exactly. So the series of shots is precisely timed to cover that unpredictable vulnerability gap.
And alongside immunity, the vet monitors lean growth. Keeping a fast-growing breed lean actively protects those open growth plates.
Every extra pound of puppy fat is mechanical force grinding down on uncalcified bone. You want a healthy rate of growth, not the fastest rate.
Because early obedience and vet care are really just preparations for surviving adolescence.
Which hits like a freight train between 6 and 18 months.
So, to summarize our deep dive today, a Doberman's legendary loyalty and steady judgment are built brick by brick.
Calm arrivals, the socialization window, gentle bite inhibition.
And cognitive engagement. Genes create the potential, but experience shapes the dog.
The blueprint needs a masterful builder.
Absolutely. But I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. We know keeping a puppy's physical growth curve lean is mathematically essential for their skeleton.
Right.
But think about the brain. If experience shapes behavior, how exactly do the microscopic nutrients we put into the bowl dictate the firing of their developing nervous system?
Oh, that's fascinating.
If experience is the sculptor, what exactly does the fuel do to the raw clay?
When you realize the gut-brain axis is forming during these exact same developmental windows, it completely changes how you look at the food bowl.
Something to explore on your own. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. Stay curious and remember how much power you hold in shaping the potential standing right in front of you.
Take care, everyone.
This audio is for educational purposes only. If you're concerned about your dog's health, always consult your veterinarian.